Morning. Welcome back to Love, Sex, and Money. Good to have you back, and it's good to be here. So, today I'm going to talk about dating after 40. So, there are unique challenges when you are in the dating world, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, right? And part of what makes it so difficult is that you are not the naive 20-year-old that believes in fairy tales anymore. Normally, by the time you've reached 40 or 50 or 60, you've had a number of love affairs. You may have been married and divorced. You may have kids. Um, you've had far more life experiences, and more than likely, you've got quite a number of battle scars. The challenge is when you have those battle scars, the battle scars from those past relationships, they may have included lies, they may have included cheating, they may have included, betrayal of some kind, all different kinds, financial betrayal, familial betrayal, your partner could have let his family or her family destroy your relationship because they allowed them to get between the two of you. Any number of different things. There could be, infidelity, um, you know, all sorts of things. And there's many, many ways to betray someone. And so the challenge then when you're connecting with someone in your 40s, when you're in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s, is that there's a lot of water that's gone under the bridge in terms of that person's life experience, in terms of their woundings, in terms of the things that they've been through. And so, if you thought it was hard to open your heart to someone when you were like 18 or 20 or 25, try doing it in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s or your 70s when you've had your heart broken numerous times. And it seems like after every heartbreak, it's like it seems even harder and harder to let down your barriers, let down your walls, to let somebody in, because it's really risky, and you're like, is this worth the investment? I don't know that this is worth the investment. And I think part of what makes it such a challenging environment, especially for individuals who may have kind of more traditional values, is that you find that your values seem to be a rarity. We're in a culture of Tinder and one night hookups and friends with benefits. And I remember the last time I was on a dating app, which I'm currently not on. There, a gentleman like posted his profile or whatever, and it was just all out there, like, I have zero interest in a relationship, I'm really just looking for friends with benefits. And I remember, like, honestly, I actually felt like I wanted to throw up. I was like, what a gross, like, I don't know, I just find this friends with benefits culture to be so vulgar. It's like, of course everyone is, free to do whatever they want and whatever works for you. But to me, kind of ideologically, it's like a mutual using of each other and trying to, it's like taking the most sacred gift you could give someone and just, you know, cheapening it. I don't know. And so maybe that's, and I'm sure there are liberal people out there who will think I'm, an idiot for saying something like that. I'm totally judgmental. Listen, it is my value systems. I have traditional values. And this friends with benefits culture, I think, is really destructive because, one, I think a lot of people engage in them because, one, they're lonely, and two, they're doing it the only way they're able to do it is because they're lying to themselves and they're pretending they can do something that they can't. Because the reality is that whether you want to believe in science or not, there is something called limbic bonding, which bonds you to the person that you're having sex with, whether you consciously want to be bonded to them or not. There are just chemical reactions. There are spiritual connections. There are soul ties that are created when you're having sexual intercourse with another human being. And to try to defy the laws of nature, I just always, I think that always tends to go badly. Um, but again, so like I'm not, for me personally, I found that post really vulgar for my own value systems. If, I have a friend of mine who just is engaging in a connection and, it's totally undefined and it's working for them and God bless, they're happy. The two of them are happy, whatever. And, so that's good for them. But, for people who are really looking for something sacred, something special, who don't view dating as this kind of casual, nonchalant Tinder hookup kind of thing, it can be a very challenging experience being in the dating culture. And, and so I just think that's part of what makes it so challenging is that there's one, it's that you have all of these past woundings, so it's harder and harder to let down your walls. But I also think that in general, people haven't been, there's so many people who've never had, their parental relationships in terms of their marriages were typically unhealthy. So I think a large percentage of the population don't even like really consciously know how to have a truly healthy and sacred relationship with their partner. I see so much disrespect and connections and things like that. So I think we're also living in this culture where, because of the onslaught of all the disgusting media and movies that, watch any movie, TV shows, whatever, they're flagrantly promoting infidelity, multiple partners, sleeping around, friends with benefits. Like it's some big joke that like this beautiful sacred thing that you're doing, the act of coming together when two become one, something that is sacred is thrown around like it's this cheap thing that doesn't matter when in fact it does. So I think, like I said, so I think part of their challenges is that, it's really hard to build trust, in your 40s, 50s, 60s. It's harder. I'm not saying it's not possible. Of course it's possible, like two people committed to, wanting to co-create something beautiful together, but it is very, very hard to trust when have had numerous scenarios before that have proven to you that trusting that person was a bad decision. So it's just another hurdle. It just makes it harder. It's more challenging, and so I think that's part of the journey is trying to. It takes a lot of courage. It takes much more courage to date. I think it probably takes more courage to date in your 40s than in your 30s, more courage in your 50s than when you're 40, in your 60s, you know what I mean? Because as we get older, we also get more set in our ways and we're kind of less flexible about what we're willing to put up with, especially if you've been single for a long time and you've really had the ability to do whatever you want. You don't answer to anybody. And now coming into connection with a new person, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I don't just get to decide everything I want. Now there's another person I have to consider, which is beautiful, but again, these are just the variables that come into play in terms of being, you know, am I that flexible? Like, what am I not willing to put up with? And I also think that, as you get older, as time goes by and, you become more and more, I think you come into your own as you age, you care less and less what other people think, and you feel stronger and stronger about what you do need and who you are and what you want and the standards you have for your life. And you're like, you know what? I'm just not willing to lower my standards. And this connection can either rise to the standard that I hold for myself and what I want for myself, or it will go away because I'm just not willing to settle. Now, that you also have to balance that with, okay, I'm not going to settle, but you also have to understand that there is no perfection, there's no perfect relationship, and there's no one person who can meet all of your needs. one of the challenges that Esther Perel talks about is the fact that we've now come into a place in culture and society where people want everything. They want their one partner to give them everything that normally an entire village would be able to give them, and that's not realistic, which means that you have to feed all the different parts of yourselves from different places. It's important to have a hobby, it's important to have friends. The especially for a woman, her group of female friends is so important to feed her and nourish her in a way that her spouse or husband will never be able to feed and nourish her. These things are so important. So I just think that it does take courage, and you have to have courage, and I also think but it also takes wisdom. I also think that you have to really navigate more intelligently, and I really endeavor to communicate to my two boys and educate them about kind of relationships and the things to consider, and things like that before they engage in a long-term relationship, just to share some of the wisdom with them that no one shared with me, that I had to learn through the trenches. Because I certainly don't want them, I want my children to find a happy, healthy, loving connection that works for them, without having to have, kind of the heartbreaks, if you will, like use someone else's wisdom to have a better life for them. So that was just some of the things that I wanted to share with you. I do believe that two intelligent people who are committed to owning their behavior, to having a healthy relationship, can co-create a beautiful connection. But it really, really does require two people to be conscious. If you're in a connection with someone who is unconscious, it's going to be painful. That is a journey of suffering, because you know you know uh, because unconscious people say and do unconscionable things, and there are people out there who do not own their shit, who refuse to look in their mirror, who always look to blame someone else, and that is just a recipe for disaster. So, just like I said, those were some of the thoughts I wanted to share with you this morning as I was contemplating this topic, and I hope you found value. Please don't go away from this video feeling like I'm being, cynical, or I think that it's not possible. I absolutely think it's possible. I absolutely think healthy relationships are possible, but I'm crystal clear. I have zero fairy tales anymore about, like these fairy tale stories that, there's like a Prince Charming or a princess, a queen, whatever, where someone's perfect and someone's going to make your life perfect. That doesn't exist. And the problem with fairy tales is that people will consciously ignore red flags because they want to believe a fairy tale in their head that doesn't exist. So you have to see the people that you're connecting with for real, raw, dirt, honest eyes, to be able to see their flaws, see their weaknesses, know your own flaws, know your own weaknesses, and support each other and build each other up from there. You can't, you can't fall in love with the illusion of who you want someone to be rather than who they actually are. That's always a recipe for disaster. So hope you found value. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.